Legendaries. They have a long history of controversy throughout the world of Warcraft. Most of it comes down to prestige. Players by and large want one, or all of them. Some legendaries were earned through the efforts of an entire guild, with a single player truly enjoying its benefits. Some were considered to be passed around like it was welfare. Legendaries for everyone. The Legendaries in Legion share similarities to the Burning Crusade. They're random, but instead of farming two specific bosses for two specific pieces of gear, today's Legendaries can drop from a multitude of sources. But if you're watching this, you know this already. You've had your least favorite Legendary drop, or you've yet to see one, or you've seen that friend or guildmate or pug get one right before your eyes. You say congrats, but you can't help but feel that anyone but you is less deserving of that coveted orange thing. Here's some disclosure. I received two. Oh goody. At BlizzCon it was announced that even more Legendary gear would be released in featured content. This announcement has potential long-term effects that may not have been realized and could bring to life the fears and hyperbole that I myself had played down. Hey, it's Sol with news, opinions, and analyses. Today I'm going to talk about the future of Legendaries based on the single statement that more would be introduced. I'll touch on the current systems that may be affected and the impacts this could have on player behavior, regardless of playstyle. First, let's talk about glyphs. Seems silly, but longtime players may remember that the glyph system was much more than cosmetic changes to our abilities, but rotation altering, even class changing enhancements. From warlock tanks to a protection paladin raid healing, the glyph system was very powerful, almost as powerful as the talent system. Which brings us to the talent system itself. A big concern was that the previous glyph system felt redundant compared to interchangeable talents. It's understood that players enjoy systems that offer depth to their characters, which is why some still miss the numerous gem slots, enchants, and reforging that was available in previous iterations of WoW. Glyphs and talents were a bit too similar to one another, however, which is, I speculate, why glyphs are what they are today. Going back to character depth, gear has also played a big part in adding flavor to our classes. Special trinkets, tier pieces, and the featured legendaries previous to Legion come to mind when thinking of game changers, items that change the rotation and even gearing options available to a player. So where do Legion's legendaries fall? For one, there are a lot of them, and while there are pieces specific to specializations, we'll pretend that if all players only used one character and spec, there are 8 available legendaries for a single player. Today, most of you players who feel invested into your characters can probably wear 2 legendary pieces, if you ever get them. And to some extent if the secondaries are good. And I guess if the effect is worth it. Let's pretend we're in a bizarro universe where all players have earned all legendaries for their one character and spec. What this means is that players will have 2 of what I'll call legendary talent slots, which are filled by whatever legendary piece of gear you need. Setting aside the nuances of stat weights and breakpoints, we're looking at a form of talent system based on gear. I'd argue that this offers an additional layer of depth to the player. What is best for a given encounter? We can already presume that during the Nighthold raid we'll be balancing gear based on stats, tier bonuses, and the talent loadout we may use. On top of that, players will choose between survivability, throughput, or utility-based legendaries to suit an encounter's needs. Eventually, players will enjoy these multiple systems of depth and customization thanks to legendaries, if you ever get them. And therein lies the core argument against legendaries as a system. They're just powerful enough to alter the gameplay experience, but the mechanism to acquire them is nearly outside of the player's control. There's only one option players have to acquire them: just play. Probability may not guarantee, but it does suggest that within a certain period of time, all players will eventually require all legendaries, assuming again that they only play one class and spec. That's okay under those conditions, but we live in a world of alts and staggered playtime, which doesn't entirely factor in with legendary acquisition rates. In very simple terms, what we end up having is a WoW with 2 kinds of players: those who experience the depth of the legendary talent slots and those who do not. Which brings me to the future, when these new legendaries will be introduced according to Blizzard. From here we can paint realistic and likely scenarios where a player may have many legendaries to choose between or none at all, depending on how much time was spent on that character or just plain luck. How does a player choose between the class they've played early in Legion with an arsenal of legendaries and the alt who may still have no way to quote-unquote catch up? Because of the lack of control players have, players can feel left out, which is a troubling feeling coming from a Blizzard game. Legendaries are for everyone, more so than in previous expansions. It cannot be argued that legendaries are only for the most hardcore because anyone can acquire them. As of right now, there's no way for a player to catch up like they could with the Cloak from Mist of Pandaria or the Ring from Warlords of Draenor. There's no carry to purchase from high-end players, no accelerated quest line, no friends or guildmates to help you. Just play. If there was a case to be made for alt or new player unfriendliness, this would be it. The one suggestion I have is to take the legendaries that are not spec specific and add them to the heirloom tab, making them accessible account-wide. This at least eliminates scenarios where players earn the third or fourth duplicate legendary. I don't imagine that to be the epic feeling Blizzard is looking for. It was said that Blizzard wants a story to be told behind earning that legendary, and I don't think it needs repeats. This doesn't solve everything, but it would be a good gesture at being a little alt-friendly, returning some player control, and at the very least, reducing redundancy of what should be an awesome feeling. Thanks to the equip limit, legendary gear has a sort of upper limit to how powerful they can become. However, even if every legendary piece was considered equal in power and viability, character depth and customization has historically been important to players of RPGs. The legendary system as it is threatens to not quite leave players behind on the power band, but it does leave them out of the fun. Imagine it's 2 years into the expansion and you convinced your friends to pick up Legion because it is legitimately fun. They're curious about your shiny orange gear and you tell them the different options you have. Yeah, they're cool. You'll get to mess around with them too, if you ever get them.